Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli, back with another review video, and of course, continuing on, reviewing more Christmassy materials on the weekends. Yep, and that's right, you read the title, and, well, it only seems fitting, and seeing as how this one cartoon animated show centering on this family, them being the title of this show, seeing as how it's celebrating its anniversary, it just seems necessary and fitting to review something of theirs that's Christmassy, and the fact that this is what started it all for them. Yeah, this being the first episode of the first season of The Simpsons. Who else? Yes, that's right. I am reviewing the episode that started it all for The Simpsons, episode 1 of season 1 of The Simpsons, Simpsons roasting on an open fire. Yes, Simpsons roasting on an open fire, the one that started it all. Yeah, the fact that, The Simpsons' very first episode, being something Christmassy, and this being the early beginnings of The Simpsons, but actually, because, a little bit of background, already starting on talking about the background. The Simpsons, they actually, were already around, 2 years before their show would begin. They first appeared on television in April of 1987 on The Tracy Ullman Show. They were in a short titled Good Night. And, it was a segment on an episode of The Tracy Ullman Show. And, a little later on, The Simpsons, they would find themselves having their own piece of material, having their own show that would begin right at the end of the 1980s. The Simpsons creators, being Matt Groening, James L. Brooks, and the late Sam Simon, the guys that started it all, and, well, especially Matt Groening, because it's really his creation, but, not to leave out James and Sam, of course, yeah. And also, one of the other, guys that was a part of The Simpsons when they first began, starting in 1987, and whom, by the way, directed the very first episode of The Simpsons, Simpsons Roasting on an Open Fire, good old David Silverman, yep. He was there from day one, and when The Simpsons would get their own show, and David Silverman's heavy involvement in The Simpsons, but how later on, he would be involved in a couple of other animation materials, like most notably Disney and Pixar's Monsters Incorporated, him being one of the co-directors, and later on, he would be the director of The Simpsons' first ever feature film, which being titled The Simpsons Movie. Yeah. So I have seen the very first episode of The Simpsons. And getting into my first thoughts on the first episode of The Simpsons roasting on an open fire. Well, I of course knew even before watching and seeing the episode on what their first episode was, and that this being something Christmassy, but the very first time I got to watch the first episode of The Simpsons was when Disney Plus first began, and having The Simpsons not only being a part of the Disney family, and because of 20th Century Fox, but the fact that the entirety of The Simpsons, and with any new season of The Simpsons along the way, all being on Disney Plus. How awesome is that? But there's also Hulu, anybody that subscribes to Hulu. Or even say, I don't know, because, even The Simpsons, not being connected with Hulu, because with the Disney Plus and Hulu merge thing, you get my point. So again, when Disney Plus first began, and when it came to, watching some episodes of The Simpsons for the first time, and any opportunity for anybody who, had never watched, almost a good chunk of Simpsons episodes, but it's thanks to Disney Plus. Yeah. So for me, it seemed very fitting as though to, when first watching The Simpsons on Disney Plus, it'd be this. Yeah. The episode that started it all. And I gotta say, Simpsons roasting on an open fire really good. The fact that, this is what made them who they are, and with their own show, because again, this being something Christmassy, the fact that their very first episode is something Christmassy. Yeah, just overall, Simpsons Roasting on an Open Fire, really good episode, and for this being the very first Simpsons episode, yeah, what more do I have to say? Alright, so, with that out of the way, my first thoughts, etc., as always, read the description / the story. Homer is forced to become a department store Santa when Marge spends the family's Christmas savings on removing Bart's tattoo. Yeah, uh-oh. And dang it, Bart! Because even when The Simpsons first began, Bart had always been like this, a troublemaker, and still is, Alright, but anyways, so getting into the episode itself. The first episode of The Simpsons. Simpsons Roasting on an Open Fire. Well, because no intro for The Simpsons. We all know the iconic intro and the theme music that plays, roaming around the streets of Springfield, and when we see the Simpsons family members leaving wherever they are, like Homer at the, power plant, and, Marge and Maggie grocery shopping, and Bart and Lisa at school, all of them coming home and sitting on the couch. Yeah, it's not in the first episode. Well, it's understandable, but a little bit of the Simpsons theme does play, a little. The first characters that we see are Homer and Marge. Of course, yeah, them being voiced by good old Dan Castellaneta and Julie Kavner. And by the way, because in the early seasons of The Simpsons, at first, Homer's voice sounded a little bit different than how it sounds, like Dan Castellaneta was basically having Homer sound a little similar to the late Walter Matthau, But as time moved on and, how far The Simpsons was going, the voice started to change, and we'd all be glad on the official voice and how it sounds for the character of Homer that Dan Castellaneta does, because at a certain point, he couldn't do it anymore, and if you know this story fully, yeah. So they're attending their kids' school. Each grades of kids, the classes that they're in and the grades that they're in, performing for a school play for Christmas, like Lisa and her group of kids, of the kids that are in a grade, them performing each different Santas around the world, and the one that Lisa plays is the one from Swahili, Africa, And when it comes to Bart's class, the group of kids that he's with in this grade, them singing some Christmas carols and most notably Jingle Bells. And Bart, because instead of singing the right lyrics to Jingle Bells, it's Jingle Bells, Batman Smells, and him getting yanked out of there, just, apparently it goes on for just a little while, and, it dissolves, and Homer, just how many grades are there in this school? And then when coming to the Simpsons home, Marge is writing some Christmas letters for all of them, and, the same goes for Bart and Lisa, what they want for Christmas. All on Lisa's list is a pony, and according to Marge, Lisa's been asking for a pony for 3 years, and, she's pretty much, okay, it seems as though that Lisa's actually wanting a real-life pony, but it's impossible, according to Marge. And, even though she hates to disappoint her daughter, it's not really possible. And for Bart, he's wanting a tattoo. Because finding tattoos cool, and they live on your body for a long time, But Marge and Homer, they disapprove of this, and Homer kind of encouraging Bart on this, you can get your own tattoo with your own allowance and such, yeah. And there's a phone call where basically Marge's sisters, Patty and Selma, they are coming for Christmas at their house. Homer's not really looking forward to it because he and Marge's sisters, they don't get along, and I'm pretty sure we all know that. So, but also, Grandpa Simpson is present as well, yeah. And when it comes to, like, yeah, the next day, and they plan to do some Christmas shopping, well, basically, Marge happens to have, Christmas saving money, and, she's all this time hid it in her hair, which is funny, having Homer close his eyes so he doesn't see and notice that where she's been hiding it all this time. And when it comes to them going Christmas shopping, and while Homer at work, well, he and his co-workers receive an announcement from Mr. Burns. And in the first episode of The Simpsons, Mr. Burns, not being originally voiced by Harry Scherer, if I'm saying his last name right, you know who I'm talking about, of course. He was not the original voice of Mr. Burns. It was originally, and he's uncredited, Christopher Collins. Yeah, he was the first voice for Mr. Burns, but I think we'd all be glad, and no hard feelings on Christopher Collins. But Harry, he is the proper and right voice for Mr. Burns, yeah. But some of the other characters that he voices, man, he voices a handful in this one. Like, he voices, well, Principal Seymour Skinner, Mr. Largo, if I'm saying that right, Ned Flanders, of course, yeah, because next door, Ned Flanders is putting up some amazing Christmas decorations, and even better than, say, what Homer's put up, It's just basically Christmas lights that he's put up, that's it. But for Ned Flanders, like, he's put up animatronics of Santa waving and, going ho, 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 and some words that say Merry Christmas, yeah. And Homer being jealous and doesn't really like Ned Flanders and calling Ned Flanders a show-off. And the other characters that Harry voices. Well, when it comes up to Homer and his coworkers receiving a word from Mr. Burns, like, if all of them are going to receive a Christmas bonus check, etc., they don't. Mr. Burns confirms them that they will not be receiving a single one. And that means, yeah, Homer, he's not going to have his, and thus, not able to get any Christmas gifts for this year. But coming back to Marge and the kids, well, because while at the mall, at one point, Bart sneaks to the tattoo shop, and Harry voicing the tattoo guy, Bart pretending to be a 21-year-old, and, well, he proceeds getting a tattoo. And what he was getting was a heart that says Mother, but didn't quite make it, because when Marge discovered that Bart was missing and saw him at the tattoo shop, yeah, the tattoo guy didn't finish it, and it was just moth. So now Bart has to get the tattoo removed, and pretty sure, yeah, because this guy, Dr. Zito Fiske, if I'm saying the name right, I'm pretty sure, yeah, because, going to remove Bart's tattoo, but it's going to cost a lot because there's going to be some lasers being used, and the only way doing so is, well, Marge has got to give up all of the, money saved for Christmas in the jar, and that's what happens, and thus Bart getting the tattoo removed. And I wonder, because if it might have been painful for Bart, because we don't see him, nor do we hear him scream. We cut back at the Simpsons house and just, got bandages around his arm. So, and Lisa and Maggie poking at it. Ow, don't touch it. Even when Simpson did so, Homer, that is. And yeah, when Marge breaks the news to Homer that, all that money that she saved in the jar for Christmas was all spent because of getting rid of Bart's tattoo that he was getting. And Homer's afraid to tell the family that he didn't get his bonus check for Christmas. Yeah, so what now? Well, Homer, he wants to do the Christmas shopping, even though, he didn't get a bonus check, but he wants to do whatever it takes, and for them to have a really great Christmas this year. And him shopping a little up until, and to speed things up, well, he decides to, apply being a mall Santa, because when he's at Moe's bar feeling down, and when Barney Gumbley, if I'm saying his last name right, also being voiced by Dan Castellaneta, of course, and, well, Hank Azaria, because only doing two voices in this, Moe, of course, and Les Moore, yeah. I think I'm pronouncing that right, yeah. Barney, well, he applied and is working currently, as a mall Santa, and Homer interested in doing this, and thus that's what he does. And we see one moment we have where we see Homer being taught, and like a little bit of a class that happens where every person that is going to be a mall Santa, they have to practice, and like from ho ho ho, or naming the reindeers, or practicing sitting on Santa's lap, and it's so funny. The Santa Claus manager being voiced by Harry. Yeah, and the other characters that he voiced, loudspeaker announcer in shop, and Santa Claus teacher. Yeah, the Santa Claus teacher. The announcer and clerk. Yeah. And Nancy Cartwright, well, obviously voicing Bart Simpson, but also Ralph Wiggum, SNPP employee, radio singing voice, a boy, Lewis, cashier, and elf Bubbles. Okay. So it wasn't, because Milhouse makes an appearance. Yeah, right there. Well, because, after Homer has applied being a mall Santa, well, and some of the kids sitting on his lap, and at times he's trying to keep it together, but up until Bart, along with two friends of his, one of them being Milhouse. Yep. Milhouse being voiced by Pamela Hayden. Also, Pamela Hayden voicing Santa Claus Girl, Yelping Woman, Rod Flanders, yep, Santa Claus Woman, yeah, because there's a woman dressing up as Santa Claus, and Son. That's all the character's name. And Joanne Harris voiced a girl as well, so just, as I always do sometimes, naming out the rest of the cast. So, and of course, Yeardley Smith, if I'm pronouncing her first name right, of course, voicing Lisa. Yeah. Bart, going up to meet with this mall Santa, little does he know that it's his dad. And when, yanking the beard and, "Why you little?" he discovers that, it's his dad, and begging his dad not to kill him. And, Homer, well, he understands, and it's okay, because, well, how is Bart really supposed to know? And Homer basically tells Bart that Bart is the first to know that his dad didn't get a bonus check and such, and, now, with Bart being involved, they've got to do something. Well, later on, Homer does receive his check, being a mall Santa, and only $13. And what can they possibly do with $13? And that's when Barney steps in again and tells them that he's going to use his $13 check at this dog track, which being Springfield Downs, which, Springfield Downs is also known as the Springfield Dog Track. And that's when, Bart then tells his dad that, he learned this from TV, that, miracles can happen, from, say, Tiny Tim, Rudolph, etc., and, a miracle could possibly happen at Springfield Downs. So, thus, Homer and Bart, tagging along with Barney, they head to the Springfield Downs. And also, coming back to the Simpsons house, because a little early on in the episode, well, there was one moment where Homer, he stole a Christmas tree, and, well, by that point, Marge's sisters, Patty and Selma, have arrived, and, just pretty funny, and how, Marge's sisters, they don't get along with their, brother-in-law, and Grandpa, popping up as well at some point in the episode. Yeah, and as I just said, Homer getting a Christmas tree, because they didn't have a Christmas tree up, and, his sisters-in-laws, they pointed that out, and, Homer being fed up and such, well, because he goes to get a tree, but, he stole it, he cut it down, and even, some of the hounds were unleashed to try and chase after Homer, but he got away, so, yeah. And when putting up the tree, well, they noticed, Patty and Selma, that there was a birdhouse on the tree, and Homer saying that it's a decoration, so, yeah. But, coming back to where Homer, Bart, and Barney are, because, making their way to Springfield Downs, which being a dog track, well, they, trying to figure out which would be the best dog and could possibly win this track, and that being dog number 6. And they put their money and bets on, dog number 6, and, well, the race happening, and the dogs, like, chasing after this robotic bunny and such on a track. But unfortunately and ultimately, dog number 6 didn't win. So, yeah. And, the $13 that they spent, yeah. But Barney, seems to be alright, happy for him, and, he's got his woman by his side, and as, he says goodbye to Homer and Bart right as he drives off in the parking lot. But then at one point, Homer and Bart, they come across and come face to face with the dog that lost the race, the dog track and such. And, the guy, basically getting the dog to just, piss off and such, go away, you're a loser, and stuff like that. And the dog, well, running up towards Homer and jumping on, on his arms, Homer's arms. And it doesn't take that long for not just Bart, but for Homer to, take the dog in, and the dog now being a Simpson. Yeah. And by the way, because we know, of course, that they each have a dog and cat, the Simpsons family. Well, according to Marge early on in the episode, Snowball at one point had sadly died and went to kitty heaven, so they ended up getting Snowball too. And let's not forget, and if you know this too, that, a poem from Lisa. I had a cat named Snowball. She died. Mom said she was sleeping. She lied. Poor Lisa. And poor Snowball. Yeah. So, again, in the end, what they really got for Christmas, the Simpsons, their own family dog. And which, by the way, the dog being named Santa's Little Helper. Yep. And, well, when they made their way back home and, Marge noticing at times that Homer had shown up late at, coming home and such. But by that point, and after, taking in their very own family dog, well, Homer breaks it to everyone that he never got his bonus check for Christmas, but it doesn't take that long for things to be patched up, and when Bart, steps in and, introduces everybody to their very own family dog, which means Santa's Little Helper, and everybody's happy, and not much for Patty and Selma. In fact, they hardly smile, and if they ever smile, and the chemistry that Marge's sisters have, not just with Homer, but anybody else, so funny. And even Marge asking her hubby, what the dog's name is, and Homer's response is number 8. I mean Santa's Little Helper. And they kiss, and there's a photo that's taken, and when the credits roll, well, they're singing some Christmas tunes, and yeah, what a fitting way to end off the first episode of The Simpsons, yeah. And of course, something funny during the end credits, of course, yeah. Episode 1 of Season 1 of The Simpsons roasting on an open fire. Well, again, the fact that this is what started it all with The Simpsons, and from there on having their own show, yeah, just really good. A really good episode, and since this is the very first episode of The Simpsons, the story and what goes on in the first episode of The Simpsons, really good, and with the characters and whom first appears in the first episode of The Simpsons, and the fact that, the first episode of The Simpsons is something Christmassy, and, well, some touching moments that happen here and there, things that go downhill, the funny/hilarious moments, and in the end, they got their very own family dog. Yeah, just what more do I have to say? Episode 1 of Season 1 of The Simpsons roasting on an open fire, really good. And for this being the episode that what started it all officially for The Simpsons. And, well, 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10 stars for the first episode of The Simpsons. Simpsons roasting on an open fire. And what about you guys? What did you think of the first ever Simpsons episode, which being Simpsons roasting on an open fire, and the fact that, this being Christmassy and their first ever Christmas special? Yeah. And watch any of you, because watching the earliest seasons of The Simpsons, and any of you like me, for the first time, watching some of the earliest episodes of The Simpsons on Disney+, any of you that, have grown up watching The Simpsons, and, the early/good days of The Simpsons, yeah. And what were some of your favorite moments from Simpsons roasting on an open fire? Yeah, just overall, what do you think of the first Simpsons episode ever, Simpsons roasting on an open fire itself, and with what I've had to say, my review, and yeah, what did you think of my review? Leave comments, and give this review video a like, as always. And so, with all that being said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of episode 1 of season 1 of The Simpsons, Simpsons roasting on an open fire. More review videos are coming your way. They're going to be awesome. Keep looking forward, and I'll see you guys in the next video/review. And, well, more Christmassy materials for me to review on the weekends. Stay tuned, because the next Christmassy material that I'll be reviewing, well, let's just say it takes place in the 100-acre wood. Yeah. Again, stay tuned for that. Take care, happy anniversary to The Simpsons, and peace out.